What's the creepiest slash scariest thing you ever seen but no one believes you? I used to have a buddy that lived in the same neighborhood, a few streets over. One night we were having a couple of beers in his backyard while playing cards. I had some things to do the next morning, so just before 10 I said my goodbyes and shoved off. It was a short walk, maybe 15 minutes door to door, so I never drove. Anyway, it was a nice night, an eventful trip. But when I got home, my roommate was coming out of the front door, coffee in hand and dressed for work. He gave me a funny look and said he thought I was asleep since my truck was in the driveway. I told him where I'd been and asked why he was going in to work at night. That's when he kind of laughed and asked if I was drunk. We stared at each other for a minute and then he told me it was just after 5 in the morning and he was going in just like he usually did. In my entire life, I'd never felt more confused than I did in that moment. I could tell he was that serious, but I knew I had just left my friend's house. I checked my phone and, sure enough, 5 something in the morning. My roommate left for work. I paced circles in the living room for a bit, then called the friend whose house I just left. He groggily answered and confirmed I'd left at 10 the previous evening. I have no idea what happened during those 7 hours of my life, and it gives me the chills to think about it all these years later. I wasn't drunk, I wasn't tired. No one could have slipped anything in either of the 2 core lights I've had. No known medical conditions that would have caused me to black out, and nothing has happened like it since. I just don't know what happened to that time. I was walking to class from the dining hall on my campus when I saw a lady yelling for help and banging on a window of a nearby building. Lots of people were walking past, but I was the only one who seemed to acknowledge it. I went to the window to help and she told me she was locked in a room in the building and that she needed me to come in and open the door. Now, I have no idea the layout of this building and where she was located, so I decided to call the campus security for help, despite her pleading with me not to call them and to just let her out. I call them and when I hear them coming, I go to greet them so I can take them to the window. I leave for maybe a maximum of 15 seconds and when I return with campus security, she is gone. We can't see her at the window and campus security goes inside to double check. And sure enough, there is no trace of her. Campus security definitely thought I was crazy and I'm sure my professor thought I was full of shit when I explained to him why I was late. No one seems to believe me that this happened, but I swear it did. Frequently asked questions. I am female. It is a very old campus with lots of random historic buildings that people don't really use, and this building was one of them. The area has a very high crime rate, so it probably was a robbery. Had my laptop in my bed just before going to sleep, not plugged in, on battery. Made an offhand comment in some website about how I wasn't scared of ghosts and didn't believe in them. Then I turned it off and went to sleep with the laptop beside me in my bed. Next morning when I try to power it on, nothing happens. But the laptop feels unusually light. That's when I realized the battery had been physically removed and placed in the kitchen. I was alone in my apartment and do not have a history of sleepwalking at all. When I was around 9 or 10, this guy who looked about 40 just kept being in every single public place I was in. With my parents or not, he was there. At the store, yes, he was there. Bought everything me and my family bought. In school, yes, he was staring at me on the other side of the school gate. Out in the city, yes, following me in the streets. I told my parents so many times and they just ignored me and said I needed to stop believing everything my brother says. Since my brother was really into creepy stuff at the time, he was 14. One day this guy just disappeared. The next thing I knew was that one of my friends kept seeing the guy everywhere. She many times pointed that the guy was outside the school gate watching her. I never saw him on the other side of the gate. Then she told me the guy disappeared after a few weeks. Then these other kids start telling everyone about the guy following him. About 7 months passed and I moved to another town. Still gives me the creeps. Edit. For the people asking what he looked like, he was a gingerhead, not really good looking. And that's all I remember. Footsteps and banging in my attic. For about 2 months, almost every night I would hear from my attic. The steps are only like 5 feet from my room, small taps or footsteps. Then it gradually got louder to the point it sounded like an audible foot was pressing on a wood. I told my dad and he told me it was probably an animal that got up there or something. Thing is, my sister heard it too, as her bedroom was in the same hallway as mine. My dad might have been right, as it was completely gone after 2-3 months, and right now at 2 am I don't hear it. And I swear to God, if I hear it after I post this, I'm actually gonna piss my pants. In the same room of my old house, I have seen a convulsed face floating outside my window. My brother has also seen it too. I saw the same face over a number of periods, and it would do stuff like smile and float closer and further from the glass. Our youngest brother, a few years later, complained that he didn't want to play with the boy in his room anymore, as he was getting too much blood on his toys. It was the same room. Not sure if it counts as creepy or overall scary, but it was weird. Back in high school, I lived in a large apartment complex. It was maybe 8-9 at night and completely dark. I was with a group of friends, 4 or 5 people. We were just talking and messing around with a friend's pair of walkie-talkies, as we decided to look up in the skies as two fireballs, or what can be described as fireballs, just appeared in the sky and slowly moved in a line. Just as that happened, we started getting what sounded like military communication over said walkie-talkies that was really static, but words came in every now and then. About 10 or so minutes later, the fireballs disappeared and the communication cut out. There was absolutely nothing wrong about this on the news the next morning, and no one ever believed me. Edit. The sky was clear, no clouds, and the only military base in my old state was 30-ish miles away. I woke up to something. It sounded like a door shutting. At first I thought it was a dream because I could hear it in the dream, as I was waking up. Kinda like when someone calls your name when you're dreaming. But then I look at my cat, his hair was completely standing up and it was beaming at my bedroom door. This was the moment when I got really scared, because I know animals can pick up on that shit and I thought he might know something's wrong. My cat doesn't do this type of things, unless a dog is in the room. So I looked over at the door, and the only way I can describe it is it looked like it was swaying. Slowly, like it was breathing. Like someone was standing on the other side of it, trying to hear if I was awake. This swaying was accompanied by a shadow. I don't mean a supernatural shadow, but it looked like the shadow of a person behind the door. I was paralyzed in fear. I lied there for 5 minutes naked watching this door away. I considered yelling and trying to scare them away, but I was terrified someone might respond. I legitimately thought this was the moment there I will have to defend myself or be killed. I don't own a gun, but after 10 minutes or so I mustered up the courage to check every room in the house. I fucking checked every corner too, but there was no one there. I don't know what happened, but my evolutionary traits kicked in and I completely believed someone was outside of my door. Edit. The accompanied by shadow part was not a shadow figure. It was like the shadow you'd seen if someone was on the other side of a cracked door. I don't know if it makes the story less crazy or what, but just wanted to be clear. I guess this isn't super scary, and I don't know if it really fits, but it still weirds me out and my friends just think I'm crazy. Back when I was a freshman in college, I went out with a friend of mine. He ended up dancing with some girl, so I went and grabbed a seat at the bar. Girl came up to me and bought me a drink because she liked my style, and introduced herself as Sapphire. We chatted for at least 1 hour, had a few drinks, and at some point she said she had to leave. So I asked for her number, and she scribbled it on a bar napkin. But then we ended up chatting more, and one thing led to another, and she invited me to her apartment. We go there and start hooking up, and she asks if I ever tried acid, and if I wanted to do some. I said sure. After it kicks in, we go for a walk. We were talking about the constellations and space for a while, but then I noticed she got quiet. I had my eyes glued to the sky for the entire walk, so I look over and she's gone. I freak out and start retracing my steps to get back to her place, yelling her name and checking bushes. My ass assumed she was just peeing in a bush. Get back to her apartment, knock on the door, and some guy answers the door. Keep in mind this was like 4 am at this point. Some guy answers and I ask if he knew Sapphire and described her. He said he had no clue what I was talking about and to just go home. So I did. I ended up crashing at a friend's place because my trip was going south and I knew he'd be able to calm me down. Next day comes and I'm still trying to figure out what happened to her. I called the number she gave me. It was disconnected. Went back to the apartment, same guy answers. Still no idea what I'm talking about. Even knocked on some of the neighbors and tried the same room location on different floors. Nothing. Talked to the security guy at the front desk. Said he remembers me coming in a few times, but never saw me with the girl. Called up my friend who was at the bar with me and asked if he saw the girl I was with. He said he never saw me with a girl. According to him, I was sitting at the bar alone for a bit, had a few drinks, and left after like 30 minutes. I have no idea who this woman was, or if she even existed, but I remember her so vividly I can't believe that I imagined it. She just vanished. I have no tangible proof of her existence. Freaks me out to this day that I spent an entire night with this person who didn't exist. I still don't know what happened that night.